Hello and welcome to Stuck in Books, and thank you to Valerie for hosting me today on the Spirit of Fire blog tour. And I thought for today it might be fun to do a video guest blog, and I thought a topic to do would be to actually give some insight into the world of the modern day author and the things that we have to think about and tackle as authors nowadays, what I call the wearing of many hats. And just in the time, it hasn't been that long that I've been published. It certainly feels like it sometimes, but my first novel, The Exodus Gate, came out in spring of 2009, and it seems like the publishing world has changed a ton since even then, because when I first came out, I actually had a lot of border stores that even carried The Exodus Gate on the shelf. I had some great ones in Indianapolis and Columbus and several other cities that I did some wonderful book signings at. And as you all know, the Borders chain closed, and there's certainly been a lot of pressure on a lot of other bookstores. Walden Books, of course, is part of that closure with Borders, and we've had a lot of shifts in the bookstore market. And then with that, of course, and one of the main factors in that is the big emergence of the ebook market. And during that time, there's been a lot more responsibility, I think, that's fallen upon authors in general in terms of the different types of things that we have to do to raise awareness. And that is becoming more and more important every day, because with ebooks, obviously, one good thing is that it allows greater market access, whereas before it was hard to get on a bookshelf, and obviously you had to obviously in many cases make a national sale to even get on some of the larger chains. And but with ebooks, I mean, pretty much anybody can put something out into the market, and what that means is there's a huge number of titles that are being released, and so it's very difficult to raise awareness about yourself when you're dealing with an ocean of new releases. And so a lot of changes have transpired, and so with authors and what I call the wearing many hats, one of the big things you hear is the online platform, the author's platform that they have. And for me, one of the things that I do is I maintain a certain group of social media networking type activities that I can handle within my schedule. For instance, each day I do my writing in the morning most often, and I have my writing set up on a computer that's not connected to the internet, because I do not want the lines to blur between the business and marketing or social media type hat that I have to wear and my creative writing hat. Which is, of course, to me, that's at the core. And so my writing computer is separate from the one that's in my home office, where I do the other work typically later in the day in either the afternoon or the evening. And so with the online platform, just to give you an idea what I deal with, I have a Facebook profile, and I also have a Facebook fan page. I also have reading groups for both the Rising Dawn Saga and the Fires in Eden series, and I also participate in the Seventh Star Sound Off, which is a place where group on Facebook where all the Seventh Star authors and editors and artists are members of, and we interact with bloggers and readers and all kinds of people. Anybody, of course, can join it. And so, but that's 5 definite things on Facebook alone that I have to kind of keep an eye on. Then there's my Google Plus account, then there's my Twitter account, then there's my personal blog, then there's my website, and then there's others like Goodreads, where I also have a profile on. Then of course there's so many others like LinkedIn, Pinterest, Library Thing, and Shelfari. And so I mean, it can get out of hand in a real hurry. And so in time management, you really have to kind of keep it compartmentalized, because it's very easy to be pursuing some idea, or looking things up, or reaching out to potentially new reviewers, or whatever type of activity you're doing can easily snowball time-wise into something massive. So you have to really, as a modern-day author, really learn how to compartmentalize and how to do time management. And so with a lot of authors that are taking the self-publishing route, and I am going to go off on a little tangent here. If you are an author and you're looking to publish your first book, if you are talking to a legitimate small press or independent press publisher, they will take care of the costs of things like cover art, editing, etc. If you're approaching somebody that's saying they're a publisher and they're not taking care of those kind of costs, that's, to me, that, my advice to you is that that is an immediate red flag that you need to be kind of a little more cautious about, because there's a lot of entities out there that do take advantage of new authors and basically, are a la carte charging services for things and calling themselves publishers. And so that's something you do have to be careful about. And but for the self-published author, who basically has to act as their own independent press, if you're going to do it right, you do have to also wear a marketing and design hat when it comes to the book itself. I'm not talking just in terms of the layout. If they're doing ebook only, maybe they're doing print on demand, maybe they're doing, a small print run. But you have to, also look into, selection of cover art and, finding a good artist for that. I mean, obviously there's great sites like DeviantArt where you have fantastic artists that, have their portfolios and examples of their work. And it's not hard to find a freelance artist that would work on a book project. But the author does have to wear those hats if they are self-publishing their work. And then another hat we have to wear is the live appearances. And I'm not just talking about one specific type of live appearance. I think the author engaging people directly, I think, is invaluable. And it's something that cannot be replaced in the online world. When I meet readers face to face, I mean, there's just something about it that just, it can't be replaced by things like, a Facebook message or anything that I, do online. And so I think it's incredibly valuable for authors to maintain a live appearance presence. And within that, I mean, there's lots of different options. I mean, there's the convention circuit. And certainly there's ones like Fandom Fest, which I do the literary track for, larger ones like that, like Dragon Con, Comic-Con, all kinds of, really super conventions across, the United States, and pretty much on a given weekend. You can find some going on anywhere. So, but within the conventions, I mean, you end up being anything from a guest panelist, on a panel topic. You might be given a seminar, you might be given readings. You could be running a table, a vending table in the expo hall. For an author, I mean, just within a convention alone, you end up wearing more than one hat just to tackle all the different things that you might end up doing there. You also have the library and school type events, and these I love because I love working with students, and I've done things in both for both the college and high school levels. I've done things with libraries, like at Jessamine County Library. I had a great presentation one night. Also recently I did a writing workshop at Washington County High School. They have just some fabulous students, and we actually did a great fantasy creative writing workshop. And like Dunbar High School in Lexington, some of my books have been used in their reading extravaganza program, which is run every year, and just a phenomenal program for getting students to read and engage in authors' work. And so I do love doing those, and I do suggest that authors try to make use of their library and school systems as much as they can. And then there's the bookstores, and like I said, bookstores are under a lot of pressure right now. And but I do think in the future, no matter how it shakes out with the ebook market, I think there's always going to be a place for the tangible, for the physical book, because it's a collectible. You can't collect an ebook. It has no resale value. I mean, it's not something that you're going to have a $2,000 first edition of 10 years down the line. I've seen a true Harry Potter first edition. It was about $1,800, and it was just amazing to see something like that. But the bookstores that I think are going to thrive are the independents, and just in my world, I mean, there's some that I just absolutely love, and in no particular order here. I mean, there's three: That Book Place in Madison, Indiana, and Roundabout Books in Troy, Ohio, and then of course my hometown store, Joseph Beth Booksellers of Lexington, Kentucky. And whether it's Frank in Madison, or it's Sue, Mike, and Dave up in Troy, Ohio, or it's Michael and Brooke here in Lexington, I mean, you get you just have a great established relationship with them. They carry your books on your shelf. You also get to do book events with them, whether it's like reading signings or even like Frank runs a book fair up in Madison, and Sue has done special events as well up in Troy, and Joseph Beth's always doing tons of stuff around. And so it's very good for authors to still do as much as they can to find those kind of homes where they can have a live physical kind of presence. And then getting back to a little bit about the online world, but it's something that the modern day author has to do a lot of, and that's working with blogs. And obviously, like what I'm doing right now is a blog tour. And but the number of activities you can do with a blog site are so many: interviews, reviews, guest posts, giveaways, and there's many different variations of those that you can engage in. And but the bloggers are becoming very much a force to be reckoned with in the new publishing world, and increasingly important. And that's and it's no secret, I mean, that a lot of high traffic bloggers definitely get big boxes of books sent to them by the major publishers all the time, and there's obviously a good reason for that, because in the online driven world with ebooks, the bloggers are at the forefront of developing that kind of awareness and talk about an emerging author that's necessary for a book to become very successful. And but with bloggers, the one thing I do want to say to authors is that always make sure that you're trying to give them unique content. I mean, don't try to copy something that you did before. I know it's not always the easiest thing, because sometimes in interviews you get asked similar questions, but always do every activity from scratch, and you'll find that you're always answering questions in a slightly different way, and you're always giving them something that they can have that's unique to their blog, and not something that's just rehashed from something you did before. Please make sure that you're giving them something special and unique. And with all these hats, I mean, there's something that I think that we have to get into a little bit, and it's usually a dry subject, but it's like the economics of the author's world. And you have royalties, and I'm going to talk in terms of print versus ebook royalties. Typically for a published author, royalties would be in the range for ebook and anywhere from up to 35 to 50%, as high as 50%, whereas print, generally around the medians around 8 to 10 to 12%, somewhere around that area. And but one of the scary things for even a small press or self-published author is the issue of returns with print, because return is first of all to have a book that's able to be carried on a bookstore shelf. Most bookstores want it what's called returnable, so if it doesn't sell, they can return it. And and then to get to that point, you have to give it like a 45 to 50% off retail price discount, even for most bookstores to even consider to take it in the first place. So print is a very risky option, because you might get some to actually take it in the shelf, but it's not necessarily a finalized sale, because if they do return it at some later time, you're going to be hit with that when it comes back to you. And so so the issue of returns is definitely a very tough thing for a lot of self-published and independent small press authors to have to factor in, and presses, of course. Because that can definitely put a real hit into your costs if you do get a lot of, say, books returned from a larger, like book signing or something, if they turn the excess books back in, and it definitely can be a tough thing. And so, but even with the ebook side of things, you're not carrying stock, but at the same time, you're not getting rich either. And I'm just going to give one example. A lot of small, I think it's crazy that you see ebooks out there where they're charging $9.99, $12.99 for. I think those prices are definitely sky high. And but for the independent type press, I mean, the range is typically anywhere from the 99-cent ebooks all the way up to about maybe $3.99, $4.99. But most of them kind of fall within that range, in self-published authors as well. But with a 99-cent ebook, I mean, like an Amazon, you're only getting about 35% back off that 99 cents. And so, if you had 5,000 copies sold, which sounds like a wonderful figure, on a Kindle title, and you're selling it at 99 cents, even 5,000 copies is only going to bring you back, after you get your 35% cut, about $1,750. And $1,750 is not enough to make a living on a year-to-year basis. And so obviously, there's a lot of people that are working hard to build extensive ebook catalogs, and but it's just a very, very difficult field in order to make a full living at being an author. And I'm even talking about the mid-list authors with major press. Pretty much the only ones that can really do this like full-time are ones that really do have true best-selling titles, and and there are a lot more of those in the self-published small press world. With the ebooks side of things, there are those, and of course some big ones that become stars, and since been picked up by larger presses like Amanda Hawking and so forth. But even with your mid-list authors, a good majority of them still, have to work day jobs to make ends meet. So for the author, I mean, another hat that they have to wear is, covering the spread and making up, the differences between, what they're able to scrape up as an author and what their costs of living are. And, until they, hit that top tier of sales, that's a real difficult challenge, and I'm not even getting into the the various challenges that have to be met when an author has a family and so forth, and has to balance all of these factors in along with family responsibilities. And so the author's world in today is a very difficult one, and like I said, I'm only giving you a brief kind of treatment of it in this video guest blog because I don't want to take up too much of your time. But hopefully this has given you just maybe a little bit of a peek into what the author goes through and what the author has to think about and deal with in order to participate in today's publishing climate, which is even worse, anything but certain, because it seems to be changing even a little by the day. So just keep that in mind when you're dealing with those poor authors, and maybe give them a little bit of a longer look if you see them at a convention, or you see their title up for 99 cents. You might maybe give them the benefit of the doubt and pick up their book. But thank you very much for listening and watching, and appreciate it, Valerie, for having me today to talk about a little bit about my world. And I hope you check out the Fires in Eden series with Spirit of Fire, and that can be found at StephenZimmer.com, and it's Stephen with a PH, ZIMMER.com, and I definitely love to talk to readers anytime, so reach out to me. And thank you very much, and hope to see you again soon.